It's Tony G and Big Lou on KM Radio, the sports book, every Tuesday night. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Got a lot to talk about. Going to touch on a little bit of basketball. LeBron's son gets sent down to the G League. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that says LeBron that he. I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised.
No, they should be shocked about it. No one should be shocked about the fact that he's going down to the G.
Yeah, Bronny it just wasn't there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was just to prove. I don't know. Maybe they did it just for him, so they got to play together. I know he signed a couple big deals, so he's going to be fine on that aspect. NBA is starting to really, we're only 11, 12 games in, but the Cavaliers are looking great.
Yes,
you were just talking about that, and it's still early in the season. Anything can happen. But definitely the Cavs are looking strong. So's Boston. But again, it's still early in the season. Anything could happen. But I'd rather start 11-0 than 0-11. You know what I mean? That's kind of
absolutely.
That would be it. College football. Woo! Oregon just keeps doing what they do. Ohio State keep doing what they do. Georgia, like I said, I usually don't mess around. I messed around with Georgia, and Georgia looked terrible against Ole Miss. Ole Miss definitely handed business. How about Georgia Tech beating Miami?
Oh yeah. Georgia Tech is starting to be the college playoff killer because they're hurting some team that has aspirations to get in this playoff, and they show up against, it's like there's certain teams that they show up against and they show out.
They sure do. They're definitely the big boy killer. There's no doubt. Texas beats Florida. Wasn't surprised at that. Tennessee wins. Penn State wins. Michigan's having a rough time of it.
Yes, they are.
Alabama, LSU. A lot of people were telling me how they're convinced LSU could beat Alabama. They were missing. LSU was missing 12 starters.
Wow.
I mean, it's what I mean. I mean, I understand that's your favorite team, but you got to be smarter than that gambling. I mean, they're missing 12 starters. That's a lot of starters. And Alabama, not the Alabama of old, and neither is LSU the LSU of old. But Alabama came into the house and beat them 42-13, very handedly. And I got to do a little bit of, let me see.
See, that's the weird thing about Alabama, because they'll come and beat LSU 42-13, but the teams that you think that they would just straight up shellac, like 60-3 or something like that, they don't show up for those teams. So they don't show up for those games, and they end up losing. So it's like it's kind of hard to A, place them high, and B, take them seriously sometimes. But then you see games like what happened Saturday, and you're like, oh well, looks like they belong.
Yeah, I mean, they're still top 20 team. I think. I just don't think that they're. I just don't think that they are. I just don't think they're just not the. They're just not the team of past.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think a lot of people get that confused. And like I said, they're still a top 20 team. Probably going to be a top 20 team. But we got new people coming into the top 10. And, it's just like anything else. The shift of power moves around. And I think you'll see with with the money being involved, I think you'll see some other contenders pop in, pop out. Definitely. Now going to the NFL, man, holy cow, we had a very interesting.
What a week in the National Football Week in the National Football League last. Man,
starting off with the third. Yeah, the Bengals and the Ravens. That was a heck of a game. The Ravens won by 1 point. Joe Burrow put on a heck of a show. So did Lamar Jackson. I'm going to take nothing away from neither one of them. It was a great game. Joe Burrow had 428 yards, 4 TDs. Yeah, and Lamar had four touchdowns, for 290 yards. Jamar Chase, he had 254 yards.
Wow.
I mean, if you
ridiculous.
can't win with that,
it's wow.
That's crazy. 264 to be exact.
I didn't, and I didn't even pick him for, I didn't pick that high of yardage for him to do. I did like 175, passing yards. I think he can get 175 passing yards on the Ravens defense, and he almost doubled it. So
yeah,
he did almost 100 more yards than a pick. So yeah.
And Derrick Henry didn't hit his number. He got 68 yards.
Right.
Like I said, this was definitely I knew we both said it was going to be a tough game. The Bengals just he needs more help. You know what I mean? It's just we'll see what they do. I mean, they're 4-6. Season's not necessarily over. Still could have a wild card position. But was a heck of a game. What the over hit. But again, the Ravens didn't cover the spread. Remember, we talked about that too, about the Ravens being tough against the spread. And then our overseas game was the New York Giants and the Panthers. The Panthers came to play. They blew 20-17. Hats off to them. And New York looks like it's going to be a cleaning of the house at the end of the year.
Yes.
And that was another, that was one of those games we were both like, I don't know. That's just hard one to pick because it's just, a field goal.
Too much food goal. Yeah, too much food goal.
And then the Patriots and the Bears. He looks like, they're kind of looking like they're regressing a little bit, the Bears.
Yes, they are.
They're not.
Yes,
they're not. Yeah, there's something's not. So they got rid of Justin Fields. What they said was he held the ball too long, stood in the pocket too long.
Right.
And now they got another quarterback doing the same exact thing.
Doing the same thing. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if
Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was going to say I got to lean towards the coaching.
Yep. They're not transitioning him from how he played in college to how he's supposed to play in the NFL. The NFL is too fast. These quarters, you're not going to be able to hold on to the ball until somebody gets open. No one's open. I can go ahead and make the play. You don't have that time in the NFL. You got anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds, and that's with a good offensive line. And you can't throw it out of bounds. Just throw it out of bounds, run another play. You can't hold that ball until somebody gets open. Especially with a lackluster offensive line that you have. There's a few things that they need to add to make things work a little quicker. But first thing they got to do is get his clock management in his head fast. And whenever if the ball's not out of his hands in 3 to 5 seconds, there should be an alarm that goes off or something. Maybe try that in practice. But who am I? I'm just a sports blogger. But these are just tips, common sense tips that might help in his, in his growth.
Yeah, they started off real strong and they're fading away. Like so, they're having trouble down. I mean, we're at a little bit past halfway mark in the league. Got 8 games left, so there's, still could have a winning season, but definitely got some stuff. There's going to be some questions that are going to be asked at the end of the season with Chicago. There's no doubt about that. But a good win for the Patriots. Going to the Bills. The Bills handled the Colts. I was kind of, Joe Flacco had 3 interceptions, had 272 yards. Josh had 2 interceptions. He had 1 last week, so he's got 3 for the year, which is not ridiculous. They managed to going into the half, they were up 20-13.
Mhm.
Fourth quarter, there was 30, and then the Colts scored one, made it 20-30. But the Bills won. They needed to win to try to separate themselves from the rest of the pack in their division.
Right.
Because they got a big game coming up this week. And he had the Broncos and the Chiefs. This was a tough, and we both said this way because it's a conference game. It was going to be tough
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. And the Broncos, they were on them. You know what I mean? They
Yes,
were
they
on
were.
them. They were actually Broncos going into the fourth quarter were winning 14-13. Sean Payton's got that. I mean, like I said, I think Sean Payton's got them moving in the right direction. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5-5. Chiefs are 9-0. Patrick Mahomes, 266 yards. Had a good. They just find a way. You give him the time on the clock, and he's going to find a way to get
Find
down
a way
there.
to
They got
win.
to, yep, find. And they're just. I still say this. A lot of people, they're not. Maybe they're not the Kansas City of old, of
Mm-hmm.
putting up 50 points, but who cares? They're 9-0.
Yeah,
Um,
all phases. Yeah, all phases of that team are contributing to the win. Like offense
right.
in some games, defense in some of the games that they're supposed to lose. Defense came through, and now with this game that easily could have been a loss. You get a blocked field goal from the special team or a block. So all three phases of this team is contributing to the win, and that's the strength of them three-peating this year because all three phases are winning these games, and you're going to need all three phases to get through the playoff to the big dance. So it's going to be,
I
it's hard to bet against them. Hard to bet against
And like I said, and if you do, but with them is they're not necessarily cut. They're another spread killer. You got to really watch the spread on them. Like they're
them. Hmm.
winning, but they're winning, by a point, 2 points. So tell me about your Saints. What went different this week? You think than in the weeks past?
What went different is they got a different voice in the locker room. Um, Everybody has a lot of respect for him, and I can see because normally on any team, the most fired up coach is the special teams coach. He's the most fired up rah rah guy, you know, uh, in your facility, and I think he just lit a fire under him. He made Alvin Kamara uh, team captain, you know, because he leads. He set the example of how you're supposed to practice and get ready for a game. They had to get a different voice in there. Maybe Dennis Allen was a little bit nonchalant. Maybe it's because he wasn't connected in all three phases of the game. He's pretty much a defensive guy, but they had to have a different ear in there. They had to have a different ear, and all of that, contributed to the win. Now, can they keep this up? Is the question. Is this just the one game because it was the Falcons and that's their pretty much their arch rival? So are they going to be able to keep this up? That's
Well, the good news is that even though at 3-7, Falcons at 6-4, they're close enough for striking distance. They're not so far behind that. I mean, the Saints, they pop off a 2-3 winning game. They win two more in a row, and the Falcons. Let's say Saints go 2-1, puts them at 5-8, and the
Mhm.
Falcons go 1-2. That puts
Mhm.
them at 7-6. I mean, it's within striking. There's some action there.
Right.
Hats off to the Saints, pulling the victory off at home. Derek Carr had a great day. Cousins had a great day. He had 306 yards.
Hmm.
So the 49ers and the Buccaneers. I'll tell you this: the Buccaneers record is 4-6, but they're
Hmm.
better than that record. He has been in. I mean, he has been neck and neck, and he has lost some heartbreakers. Um,
Hmm.
but I think as a core, with some pieces added to it, I think the Buccaneers next year could definitely be a factor because, like I said, they've been in some games. That
Yes,
record could easily be, 6-3, 7-2. You can argue that back and forth, but it definitely better than the record.
absolutely.
And like I said, yeah. So and in the 49ers, they're going to keep getting better because they keep getting people back off IR.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
they're to watch for.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers and the Commanders. Wilson has opened up the Steelers with the deep ball, and I
Yes, he
can't
has.
believe it. I got to eat my words. I didn't think he could. I mean, he looked so bad in Denver, and
Absolutely. I was right there.
yeah, you know what I mean. And the Steelers managed to pull this one out by a point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was 28-27, but him being able to put that deep ball with the threat of a deep ball, it
Mm-hmm.
changes their whole aspect. Because in the years past, they've had winning records, but they've never had a quarterback that could throw the deep ball. They're all short dump off, which kind of changed how you can play defense against them. So the Steelers are 7-2. Commanders are 7-3,
Mm-hmm.
and the Steelers, they're a real contender right now,
Yeah.
provided
Top of the
injuries
AFC.
and yeah,
Top of the
so they're
AFC
right
North.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't, and like I said, the Commanders are in a good spot too, even though they had
Yes.
a loss. I think they'll be fine. Pick themselves off the ground and just keep kicking. The Vikings and the Jaguar. If you wanted to watch a paint dry, this game here was just like, holy cow!
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And I picked some parlays in this game. I should have stayed away from it, but I figured, okay, well, let me get some props in. Let me get some props on some of these players because I know, they're going to do their thing against the Jaguar defense, but not so much. The right Sam Donald didn't show up today to get my numbers where they needed to be.
Now he threw
So,
3 interceptions. I mean,
right.
that was
So,
just holy cow! That changes everything, man. It puts teams in good field position, and yeah, this was 12-7. So if you had the under, you were definitely in good and definitely in good shape. Um, the Titans and the Chargers. I mean, we both agree that the Chargers were a better team. That and like I said, like I said, the Titans are going to get a bunch of draft choices. They freed up
yeah.
a bunch of equity. I'm sure next season is going to be this is kind of implode year. Let Derrick
Mm-hmm.
Henry go. Got rid of some wide receivers. Just so they'll be on the hunt. Um, they'll be on the hunt for some defense, maybe another quarterback. But the
Yeah.
Chargers moving in the right
Moving right,
direction.
yeah. Moving right along.
Eagles and Cowboys. The Cowboys have imploded. They have too much animosity within the locker room that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think can be fixed. I think
No.
I think they I think at the end of the year there's got to be a lot of choices to be made, and it may be time to unload a lot of people and just totally rebuild with the whole new. The problem is it ain't that you don't have some studs, but the culture is not right. It's just
Absolutely.
something about it. There's a bad attitude there. There's a lot of finger pointing, and
No
I think
accountability.
yes, and I think a lot of these spots like the Chargers, the Commanders, the Vikings, they got these new coaches and they're changing they're
Mm-hmm.
changing the culture of how we do stuff. I don't care how we used to do it. The
Right.
Cowboys culture is just not there anymore.
It's
It's all
because of
about
the
me, me.
right. And that and also it's about the person that's above the coach. You
I
know,
agree. There's
if you right, if you work at a job and you're doing said job, but you answer to a manager, but the owner, comes in and does what he wants to do, albeit the manager's wishes or whatever, then of course you're not going to respect that manager where you can just go to the owner and get what you want.
right.
So I don't see that dynamic changing with the Dallas Cowboys until uh and this is not going to happen, but Jerry has to just fall back, you know, and let his coach run the team. because
Right.
because I believe that's where most of the lack of respect comes from. They know they could just go to the owner. Owner's got to open the
Yeah.
door. There's no structure
Right.
as far as there's no tree to go up when it comes to that side of the ball. It's whatever the owner says. And I think that dynamic has ruined that culture.
I totally agree with you. Like I said, I mean they're 3-6. It looks like it's going to be a long year for them. There was a lot of money paid, some missed opportunities.
Mhm.
They've had injuries. I'm not going to, I mean that's just part of the NFL. I mean everybody's
Right.
sustained injuries, and it's all in how you handle it. That's for sure. And things just haven't been handled right in Dallas. And like I said, you see the turmoil, and you got people saying stuff against the coach, but I mean it's just a bad situation. And I don't know how long Dak's going to be out, but from what I understand, it's going to be at least another 4 games. So this is what you got. And when Dak comes back, they easily could be 3-10.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? At that
Because
point,
you're not going to get out of because you're not going to get any offense out of any of your backups. Neither one of
doesn't
them
look.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Cooper Rush. I thought he was a good backup, and he didn't look good. And Trey, it's just a lot of chaotic. They got their work handed for them. I mean, at this point,
Right.
it's about playing for pride, and there don't seem like there's a lot of pride on the Dallas Cowboy team at this point. Um,
Right.
our team that we said it's hard to bet on that isn't being consistent is starting to be consistent. Murray is really starting to play ball again. Don't know what
Hmm.
they changed some stuff up there for him. Kyle Murray had a good day. Um, Aaron Rodgers threw for 150 yards, no TDs, no. The bottom line is the Jets are not very good. I don't know. I don't know if this was a bait and switch on us, and we were made to believe they were going to be good, better than we thought. Um, it's just not flowing over there. Don't know why. They got rid of the coach. They brought in his favorite wide receiver, and we're still not. We're still not going. They're 3-7. They'd have to pop off the 3-7. They need to win the next 6 in a row. You know what I mean? They would have Buffalo would
Right.
have to have a total meltdown for them to even get close to maybe picking up a wild card. Um, and it could
Right.
happen. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but I don't see this team. I don't see this team making it. And Cardinals are off to a great. Um, they're 6-4. They can
Hmm.
control their own destiny. They're playing well as a team. Kyle Murray seems to be that he has his focus. So man, that's right now they're in the driver's seat. So hats off, hats off. Now Sunday night game. I don't think I've ever seen exactly a 5 interception. It was 8 interceptions. I think there was 7 interceptions total. Am I
Yep.
right? Let me see.
Got to be
Let's.
because
He had 5. We know
hmm
that. Um, he had he had 5. Shroud had 2. Um,
yeah. So 7 interceptions thrown in that game.
7 interceptions thrown in that game. So yeah, I mean it was something to watch. That's all I can tell you.
Hmm.
One thing I will say, he never pulled them, which I was very surprised, Lou.
I
He
was
kept.
too.
I mean, he threw some passes that I was just like, holy.
Like,
He was hitting the dirt.
where is this coming from?
Yes, I mean it was bad, and the defense kept them in it.
Hmm.
Um, they came down and scored. I mean, they scored 13 they scored 13 in the fourth quarter, which was the. I mean, but at the end of the day, see, Houston maybe didn't take full of that because, to be honest with you, going in I think going into the second quarter was 10-0, and really it should have been 24-0, and it wasn't. Going into the half, it was 23-7, and to be honest with you, it should have been 40-7, and they didn't take advantage of all those interceptions they had. He got sacked a few times. Put him out of field goal, had a punt. They had some good field. Talk about C.J. Stroud.
Right.
There were some really good plays. On Houston at times, it was like, wow, they're just dominating. And then Detroit just took over the game coming out of the half as far as defensively. And miraculously, that's what great teams do. They find a way to win. And Detroit found a way to win, and they're 8-1. And the Texans are 6-4. They're still okay. The season ain't over. I'm not throwing in there because they got a bunch of people out that they got a bunch of people out. So when they get everybody back, they're going to be a force to be reckoned. And if they could stay close enough to be, to be in the running,
right.
They'll be fine. They could even be a force going into the playoffs. Like I said, Houston's a very talented team. They've had a lot of injuries. The spread on this was 3.5. If you took the spread like I did, you lost this. That's why I was trying to move the spread to 3, which would have been a push. And I had a chance to take it at 2.5, and I just didn't take it. And I said, well, and I should have, because I like moving the spreads when I think it could be, when Vegas throws you a spread of 3.5, there's a reason why they did that, and that's why they called the half a point the hook. And you want to get away from the hook, because the hook is basically, you might as well say 4 points.
Right.
So that being said, it kind of is what it is. All right, guys, when we get back, we're about to take a break. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank Big Lou. I want to thank everybody at the KHAM Radio family. And like I said, if you guys want to reach out to us, KHAM Radio Facebook, the Sportsbook Facebook, hit us up, let us know, and we'll make it happen. All right, we'll be back. I want to thank everyone again. Every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, the Sportsbook on KM Radio, where we go ham. KM Radio, Tony G, Big Lou, the Sportsbook, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. You're just tuning in. We just covered a bunch of games, covered scores, some college, some basketball. We're going to cover and tell you some of our picks for this week. Got a lot of games. Got some very tight games. Some games that have conference meetings. So to start off with our first one, Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles, -3.5. Now watching Philly's another weird one too. They're winning, but they're not playing like lights out. They got. Right. I know there was the great run with Barkley, and he jumped over. I get all
reverse
that.
hurdle. Yeah, that's great.
That was right. But sometimes I see the offense struggling. Now, one thing that I do like about this game is I like the over, which is 49. Maybe bring that down to 48. And then you got the Eagles at home. And I think this is going to come down to Lou, maybe not necessarily who's the better team, but the more experienced team. And I like Philly only because of the experience.
Right.
This is a big game. This is it's not the Super, but it's a lot. This is who's going to jump into first place and try to make that stand. And I think Jalen is just a little bit more prepared on that aspect of it. I think it's going to be a good game, and it could easily come down to a field goal. So whichever way you go, take the hook off this. It's 3.5. Drop it to 3. Don't get hooked. But I do like the over because they both can score some points. Even though I know this is a divisional game, I do like the 49. Now the other thing is we're getting into that time of year where weather is going to start becoming.
Yeah.
Look at your props. Look at Barclays. Look at Calps. Look at what the props are, and then definitely look at the weather. It might just be a cold day, not a big deal, but it could be a rainy cold day. You know what I mean? Which definitely hinders the passing game. But I do like Philly minus, unless, like I said, you got to check on the injured reserve list in case there's somebody that's, if Barkley's not playing or something happened to Hurts, totally changed everything. But right now, I like Philly minus 3.5, and I like the over 49, maybe dropping it to 40, 48.
Okay.
All right. Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a good game.
Big
This
game
is
right
going to be
anytime we get an AFC North matchup, because you don't know which way it's going to go because they all play differently, but we all expect the same. They all play differently, but we expect the same out of all those teams when they play each other. We know it's going to come down to the wire, and we know mistakes is going to cost them the game. So Ravens defense got to show up because Russ is starting to feel it a little bit. He's airing it out a little bit. It's getting a little accurate. So those guys got to show up. They got to watch. They can't go out, no strip club, no nothing. Just watch tape. Watch tape. Watch Russ. Watch how he cooks. Watch his ingredients. Because if they don't show up, the Steelers are going to get them. And they're in Pittsburgh. And this is a rival game. Crowd's going to be in it. Yeah.
So this is another one. This is, and I agree with you. I like the over because Russ is starting to feel himself, and that Ravens defense is suspect deep. And he's been throwing the ball well, and mixed with that play action and with the running, they can score some points. And I know the Ravens. I know Baltimore is going to try to concentrate on slowing down Henry, but then you also got to slow Lamar down because Lamar gives you that option of another running back. And then when you don't do that, then he has an option to throw the ball. But I think there'll be some points. I would probably tease it down to 47, get the hook off it, like I always say. But this is going to be a good game. This is going to be one of those games that I definitely want to watch. Really, both these games. One's on Thursday. It's going to be a good game, and then Baltimore's this is a 12:00 game.
Right.
Another really, really good, game. Game 3 is Green Bay and Chicago. I like Green Bay. I think Chicago's on their back heel. I think they are. It's a rival. I get it. Green Bay, Chicago, the whole 9 yards. But Green Bay's a better team, and I like Green Bay. Now I don't like the over necessarily because it's proven. It's been proven that Chicago can be shut down when they start having a little. When he starts, wheeling, and you can get him on his back foot. They don't score a lot of points. 41's not a lot of points by any means. But I could easily see this being 24-6. One of those games you're like, man, they could score more, and they probably could, but it's not going to happen. So I don't really. This is another one you might want to play around with the live and see if you can get the action. Because sometimes if you watch the live. Sometimes you can still get the under. You can still get the under at 41 all the way to the end of the first quarter. Well, that's only 3 quarters of 41 points. That's a doable. That's a percentage rate coming in here. coming in your favor. So you just got to pay attention. Got to pay attention to your live bets. I would check out Jordan Love's stats, see what he's got, how many yards. There's going to be a lot of good player props on this. And just like the two games before with Baltimore and Philly and Washington, there'll be some good player props there. Now here comes a game that I don't really like. It is, well, not that I don't like it. It's Detroit Lions and Jacksonville Jaguars, and the spread's 13. That's a lot of points.
Yes, it is.
And with
a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. And then with golf coming off a terrible performance, I'm not saying he's going to have another performance like that. I'm just saying, if he's not 100%, I believe the defense could keep him in it, but it's going to be one of those, just like what happened, 3 points. I mean, they could. I mean, this is 13 points. Don't really like. That's a lot of confidence, especially coming off that squeaky. Now their defense, like I said, is lights out.
Right.
I just don't. Like I said, and there's some good props in here. And like I said, this is one with the 13 points I'm not a big favor of. I'm looking at the over-under 47. That could be doable. Because at times, Sunshine, he looks good. You know what I mean? You just don't have a lot around him.
Right.
This is one. Yeah, this is one with, like I said, with the spread the way it is. I don't really care for it.
Right.
Now going to tell your wife I think you're better. Tell me about the Saints in Cleveland. What do the Saints need to do to beat Cleveland?
The Saints need to do what they did last game. Stay consistent, stay disciplined, eliminate these penalties, and get it in the red zone to score. Get in the red zone to score. That's been the Achilles heel of the Saints. They get down to they get to the red zone, and then the plays run out. But the defense is okay. They break more than they've been, but that's okay. But I do believe they got some good young talent on their secondary, but they're up and down. They can beat this Cleveland Browns game because one thing they know is Jameis Winston. And if he's the starter, then they know that, he's going to throw some interceptions. Because they had that one great game out the gate, and then it seems like the old Jameis Winston comes back. I'm not concerned, especially with the type of person that he is. I don't understand why the consistency isn't there. But I think they can win this game, if they stick, if they keep it simple, discipline, and they should be able to win this game. Especially too many penalties, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Now, I will say this, the way the Saints played the other day, and I have seen, like I said, we saw Cleveland play the Ravens. Tough. But I know that's one of those conference games that really kind of And I know you got Chubb. They got to control Chubb. Don't let him run all over and control it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I'm saying. This is where New Orleans can take a little bit of charge of the direction they're going. If they win this, now it's like, oh, okay, we got 2 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's close enough to where you could still be in the mix. You know what I mean? And then, what if New Orleans wins and Tampa loses or I mean, it's just a lot. There's some stuff they can. I know Tampa's got. They both have a bye.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. No, Atlanta doesn't have a bye. But anyway, so this is the Saints' opportunity. This is the Saints' opportunity to take recontrol their direction where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. It's there for them, and it's there. I mean, I think I like the Saints. I don't know about the over under just yet. I know they can score, and like you said, if they get the right quarterback matchup, they know him, so they know how to play him, how to disguise setups for him, to because he can and will throw a couple interceptions.
Yeah.
So, but I like the Saints -1 at home. It's one -105. They're coming off a good win, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a good thing. Next game is Indianapolis Colts with the New York Jets. Jets playing at home. The Colts, yeah, they lost to the Bills, but the Colts are one of those teams too. You just don't know what Colts team you're going to go against. You know,
Absolutely. That's right.
yeah, just not consistent. You want them to be, and one week
Mm-hmm.
you watch Flacco and you go, okay, or you watch that
Yeah.
defense and you go, yeah. And then the next week you're like, like he had a bunch of interceptions last week, and that's Sunday night's game was the exception of the rule.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to throw 5 interceptions and get the win. It usually doesn't
Right.
happen. I think that's the first time. Yeah, it's not. So I think if the Colts come in and play good basic football and stay away from the interception, the turnovers, and stupid penalties, they could be the Jets. And I think if they beat the Jets, that will be the nail in the Jets' coffin. It's my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion.
I
I think
agree.
it will be. I think it will be like because the Colts are still in there, with their record.
Mm-hmm.
They still can make a little run. So that being said, um, I like the Colts +3.5 over the Jets. Um, and again, weather could be a factor. You got to watch the weather
Mm-hmm.
because it could be cold and rainy. That's definitely a huge factor. Um, yeah, definitely a huge factor. Los Angeles Rams and New England. I mean, New England's coming off a win. The Rams played Monday night. The Rams are, I think they're a better team. They've got a lot of, they sold everything to get a championship, got rid of everything to get some more draft choices. Now they're in the rebuilding stage. New England's
Mm-hmm.
still lacking a lot of pieces and parts. Um, I like the Rams. Now I'm gonna tell you where it comes a factor: the weather again.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 28 degrees, I don't feel that warm and fuzzy about the Rams.
Right.
I'm not saying they can't win, but that's just the weather. They're coming from a warm state. They're playing on a 4-day. They played Monday night, so they got a short week.
Mm-hmm.
New England's got a long week to prepare. It all depends when they fly them into New England. That could be another. I mean, are they going to fly them in Wednesday to get them
Right.
up to or
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of factors, and that's before. I say Los Angeles, but there's some more thought process before the final decision is made.
Right.
Um, the Raiders and the Dolphins. Who you like?
Raiders, Dolphins. I like Dolphins. I like the Dolphins because they're at home, and
Okay,
the Raiders are kind of in turmoil right now, and they don't have any skilled players that's going to give the Dolphins any type of threat or any type of competition, especially when you got an upset. Tyreek Hill, that's glad to have his quarterback back so that he can do the things that he do. And this is definitely the defense to do it on.
right.
So, but at the same time, I don't feel like Miami's going to blow them out either. For some reason, I'm still not. Uh, I'm not convinced that the dog. Now I am convinced that they could be number two in their division.
Okay.
but they're not ready for Josh Allen and the Bills yet. They're not ready for the Bills yet. And we saw that last week.
Mhm.
So they're not, especially if it comes down to, the division, they're not ready for Buffalo yet. They got some stuff to do. But I do think they can
Yeah,
win this game.
I think you're right. And it could be sloppy. It's -7. Uh, and the Raiders, they get. I don't know. They're another one. They play terrible for 3 weeks, and they play like they're Super Bowl champs week 4. Not
Right.
consistent. But the quarterback play is okay. It's not super. Um, I like Miami too at home. Um, I don't know about the over under. I have to really kind of really study that and see what I got.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota and Tennessee. Now they're giving Minnesota -6. I think that I don't know. I'm not saying that's disrespectful. I'm just saying that I think um, he had some problems last week. You know what I mean? Sam's had a couple problems. They got a heck of a defense. He hasn't been playing as good as the first 6 games, but it's
Right.
starting to see. He's a little bit off, but I think they're better coached. And
Mm-hmm.
the Titans are in that position right now. Like, hey, we're playing to upset as many of you that we can. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that they're playing at home +6. But I like Minnesota. Necessarily don't like the need to look at Minnesota's injured reserve list and see who
Mm-hmm.
they got. The over's 39, but I do like Minnesota -6 as of right now. Game day may change. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Seattle and San Francisco. This is an important game for both.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle does not want to. Seattle does not want to fall. They don't need another loss. Um, they don't need. Let me see. Maybe,
They got LA and they have the Cardinals on their heels. So they
yeah,
they they gotta they gotta play some solid football before they fall behind those guys because they're coming.
yes.
Arizona's
Arizona's
coming, and it seems
yeah,
like the Rams are getting it back together a little bit. It seems like they're getting it together. I know, they're also a team that's missing some players in key spots,
right.
especially on defense. But I do think they have more momentum than Seattle does right now. It seems like Gino needs to get back uh, ascending. Seems like he's been descending a little bit. He needs to,
Right.
he needs to get back focused and start making some completions and getting those balls, uh, getting the football to where players need it to be successful because he has it in him. He just lost it somewhere, but he can get it back. But just takes a little bit more concentration. But he has
And
Arizona and LA on his heels, so Seattle got to
yeah,
get it together.
Seattle's in last place. They're 4-5. The Rams are
Mm-hmm.
4-4. San Fran is 5-4. So it's funny because things are tight in some divisions, and these games these are all they're all for something. I mean, if you want to stay in pace, and so San Fran -6. Um, McCaffrey's back. They had a little bit of tussle the other day, but I think
Mm-hmm.
they'll clear that up. Maybe tweak this to 6. Um, tweak it to 6. You got San Francisco at home. I like
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco with people coming back healthy. It's going to be a good game. It's a must win for both of them, but
Mm-hmm.
I lean towards San Fran. And it's crazy about the next game is another must win for the Falcons and the Broncos. So the
Mm-hmm.
Falcons, and when I say the Atlanta is 6-4, Tampa's
Right.
4-6, New Orleans 3-7. Well, if you lose, you're 6-5, and the Saints are 4-7 if the Saints win. So now all of a sudden you're touchable. You know what I mean? You're really
Mm-hmm.
you're very touchable.
Right.
And they don't need that. So they need to. And the Broncos going into AFC. So the Broncos are 5-5. They're right behind the Chargers at 6-3. Now they ain't gonna catch. Probably ain't gonna catch Kansas City, but there's a wild card because if you look at it, there's gonna be two wild cards, and everybody, Indianapolis, Tennessee, Jacksonville, they're ahead of all them. So they need to win. Like I said, they need to win too. Now going into Baltimore and Pittsburgh, because that'll probably be the two that make it in the playoffs, and then you get one more wild card. So they're fighting for that. So that's going to be something. You know what I mean? That's going to be it's going to be a good game. Denver's playing at home. Atlanta is +2. You know,
and that is another team that doesn't show up like they do at home too. That's another team that doesn't play as well outside of the dome.
No, that's true. And weather again could be a factor.
Yeah.
Now it's probably not going to snow. Yeah, thin air. It's probably not going to snow, but it could be 38 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it could have a little. You know, again, it could easily be a little bit of rain. All these factors that you have to take in. I like Denver at home.
I do too.
I really do. With Sean, I like Denver at home. Atlanta's got a couple. They got a couple holes in their armor. Kirk's not playing bad. It ain't that he can put up some yards. They're just, it's just they're just lacking a couple, execution, stupid penalties. I mean, the same thing that everybody fights with. What's he who gives up the ball? He who gives up the ball less wins the game 99% of the time, But that being said, all right, Sunday night game is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo at home. Kansas City is +2.5. And I'm going to analyze this. And I know I'm a Buffalo fan, but I want to analyze this. Okay. Buffalo has beaten Kansas City in the regular season. That's not a problem. Can't beat them in the playoffs. We already know that. We can't beat them in the playoffs. But in the regular season, we can beat them. Now the difference between this Kansas City team is they're not scoring 50 points on the Bills. You know what I mean? No. So this is a whole different team. Now the question is, can Josh and them put the pedal to the metal, and rack up enough points where he can't play from behind? That is a question.
Yeah.
So, and the Chiefs have pulled miracles out of their butt this year like nobody's business. He's miraculous. And you're going against the great Mahomes. There's no doubt about it. Weather's not going to be a factor because they both play. Weather can be a factor but they both play in bad weather. So that part, like if it's freezing rain, they both play in it, so it doesn't matter. May slow down the passing game and be more of a running skill. That's definitely. I think the Bills at home regular season, they beat them. I like the Bills at home. Not betting this. I'm just telling you, and I hope I'm not. I'm trying to be most analytical about this because I hate when people talk about their home team. But the Bills can beat them during the regular season. They're not as explosive as they once were. Kansas City. They got a good defense, but you have to capitalize on them. And I think the way you beat the Kansas City Chiefs is you have to put your foot on the gas and never let up. That's the only way. You cannot. You just have to be. You have to. All the starters are playing every single down. We're not letting up. Kind of like, to be honest with you, you need to play like Detroit. That guy is balls to the wall, wide open. Don't care what the score is, and he's just going for it on fourth down. I mean, I think that's what it takes. We're going to leave it on the field. If you beat us, that's fine, but we're going to leave it on the field. So this is going to be a good game. Could come down to a field goal.
Right.
It's going to be a great Sunday night game. But I like the Bills. I don't really care for the over because I can see this being 2013. Yeah, 21, 21-12 or something like that. This is going to be a hard one out. Their defense is pretty decent. Ours is pretty decent. He's got weapons. We got weapons. We're playing at home. But this is Kansas City can afford to lose. I think for the Bills, the pressure's on them because you got to prove you can beat the Giant. You know what I mean? That's the name of the game. Yeah. But because it always comes back and haunts them. All right, guys. Another Tuesday night in the books. Appreciate everyone. Thank you, Big Lou. Thank you, our KM Radio fam. Anyway, make sure you guys all had a great Veterans Day. All right, we'll see you next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, KM Radio Sportsbook, where we go ham.